Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Claritysoft webinar. I'm Susan Arnold, Implementation Specialist here at Claritysoft, and our topic this week is a guide for system administrators. Today is Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. Our focus today is on those of you who are designated as the admin user in Claritysoft because the settings area gives you the rights and capability to customize your database. So we're going to cover the topics that are found under the settings menu in Claritysoft. And we'll take a look at the basic settings menu and setup, talk about users, entering your users and setting them up, and then the access profiles that we have. There are different ways that your users can see the data in the database, and you get to assign each user an access profile. There are built-in ones, and you can also create custom ones. So each user could possibly have a different access profile for logging into the database and seeing different data in the database. And then the next main thing to do with your database is to create the custom fields that you need that help make the database fit your business. One of the really nice things about Claritysoft is it's fairly generic when you get it. You know, most of your records are pretty straightforward. Accounts just has the account name, address, and phone information, and contacts is the same. But then you can begin to add custom fields that help make it fit your company. So for example, in accounts, you might want a status type field that says this account is a customer or a prospect or an ex-customer or inactive customer. You may want a category type field that defines what market segment or industry that business is in. And so that begins to customize your database so that you can begin to do searches on those category type fields. And you may add up to 100 numeric fields, 100 date fields, and 100 text fields. Now, if you use all 300, I don't think you want to do that because you'll have your people spending more time entering data into the database than actually doing sales activities. But you do have those capabilities if you need them. And then the other customizations in the database of setting up different things within the settings. So we're going to talk about those. We'll move along fairly quickly. We could probably spend 2 hours on this, and we certainly don't want to do that. So we'll move along fairly quickly. Again, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A panel that you can type your questions in, and I will do my best to answer them. So I'm in my Claritysoft right now. And when you're first come into Claritysoft, obviously it's going to be empty. And so the first job you're going to have as the admin user is to go to the settings menu, which is this gear-shaped button up here in the upper right of the screen. When you click on it, over here on the left, you will see all of the settings options. And the first section, notice here, is called My Settings. This section is a section that's visible to the users that are non-admin users. So anybody who's not marked as an admin user will be able to see these settings here. So these are personal things. So one of the things is their email settings, which they will need to set up so they can send email out of Claritysoft, and you probably will have to help them accomplish that. Email templates are where you can create templates that you might send out, standardized kinds of templates, and each user can create and save as many templates as they would like to have. Once they have created a template, they are able to take that template and share it with other users. So this is nice if someone's very good at creating templates that look really nice or worded nicely, then They can create them, save them, and share them with other people. Email signature. Because you can send emails out of Claritysoft, you want to be able to have your signature go along with it. So you may create your signature in Claritysoft, save it so that each time you open an email in Claritysoft, then your signature will be part of that email and will go out with it. Preferences, you're going to set the time zone, which you can do as an admin user in their user record. You choose the date format that you wish to see. There's also a place for the global date format. And then what default calendar view you want, day, week, work week, so on. And then what module do you want to land in when you log into Claritysoft? So these are all personal preferences for each user. My information they can fill in with their phone number, company address information. So that will then appear automatically in things like quotes and invoices later in the database. So you can see all these different things, color schemes, if they want to change color. If the user would like to change the password, then they can change their password and create a new one according to the rules. And I will mention this because this is new. And then the audit log, you may or may not see this, allows you to see what actions you have done in the database each time you come in. So that's now a part of it. Now, getting down into the system settings, this is where you as an admin user will be able to make settings. And these are global to the database, okay? The ones in my settings are only for each individual user. These are all global. So under system settings, we first have general settings where you're going to enter your company name, the time zone. Now, people get confused on the time zone because there's no drop down here. So what you do if you're not in Eastern time, you simply select across there and start typing where you are, and you'll notice that you're going to get all the time zones anywhere in the world that have central in them, and then you would select Central Standard Time. So that's how you do that. And if I want to go back to US Eastern, I can type that. So that's just a little trick to know as an admin user. The date format, this is global to the system. So according to where you are or what you prefer, you can have the month, day, year, year, month, day, or day, month, year. So this accommodates all the different types of date formats that are out there that most companies use depending on where they are. Now this would be your global format, but if you noticed up here in the preferences, a user could choose a different format, and so the dates would display differently. So for example, your company might be in the US, but you have a sales rep up in Canada, and in Canada, they tend to do day, month, year. So maybe that person prefers to see the day, month, year format when that person logs into Claritysoft, but the rest of you in the States want to see month, day, year. Financial year, you choose what month it starts, your currency symbol. Global search, you have a yes and a no, and when you first log into Claritysoft, this does default to no. Well, what is global search? In leads, accounts, and contacts, there is a global search under the spyglass, and what this allows you to do is search for either a company name or a contact person across all three modules. So for example, you might want to put in a new lead and you're not sure if that person exists in the database yet. Well, you could search in leads and you'd only find, whether they're in leads or not, but it's possible they're already in accounts. So you turn on the global search and do the global search, and then you can search all three modules at the same time to find what you're looking for. So if you're going to use leads, then I recommend you turn this on. That's fine. It also helps if you have restricted your users to only see their own records in the database. Because if they can only see their own records, they don't know if a certain company or contact already exists because it belongs to someone else. So the global search in this instance is really helpful to them because they can type in that company name and search and pull it up. And if it does exist in the database, they will see what user already owns that record. So that's very helpful. And then you won't have problems with people creating duplicates and kind of stepping on each other's toes. All right. And then the other part here that now has been added recently are password rules. Right, currently, out of the box, for Claritysoft, the only rule that you have for passwords is it must be a minimum of 5 characters. Doesn't matter what they are. They can be all letters, all numbers, anything. They don't have to have upper lower case. However, if you want to make things a little bit more secure, then you can come in here and say, well, the password must include a symbol or it must include a number, okay? So you create and you can change the number here. Maybe you want it to be a minimum of 8 characters. So you come in here and you set the restrictions that you want for creating passwords. And then as a person creates a password, it kind of tells you, yep, you did this, yep, you did that, nope, you didn't do this. So go through if you want to do that, and even those of you that maybe are already using Claritysoft might want to go in and reset things, and then when people change their password, they have to follow the new rules. The existing ones will be okay until they want to change it. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. And once you've set all these settings, you click apply to save it, okay? System notifications, just to go over these quickly. These are already set up in here, and they're for Claritysoft to notify you of different things. You can see here, this is a reminder for an activity. This is an email for sending out scheduled reports. This is for business rules or workflow automation, emails being sent, and things like that. So you do not need to touch these at all. If for some reason something's not working right, then you can talk with our tech support and they'll figure it out, but you don't need to touch these. In fact, you probably shouldn't. All right, module names, I only want to mention really super quickly. Sometimes people want to change the name of a module. They don't like accounts and they want to call it customers, or they don't like opportunities and they want to call it something else. You can do that here. However, when you go back to the database, let's say you change accounts to companies. Well, the heading at the top will say companies, but when you get to the columns for the different field names, it's still going to say account. And so sometimes that becomes more confusing rather than less confusing. And so you can try this if you want, but I have people do it and then usually end up going back because it gets too confusing. Logo, you are able to insert your logo, which will appear at the top of the navigation panel that you can figure out. Name prefixes. In Claritysoft, the names of people can have 5 parts. Prefix of Mr., Ms., Mrs., Dr., whatever. First name, middle name or initial, last name, and a suffix name, which could be the second, the third, junior, or could be a professional suffix like MD or something like that. If you're going to use prefixes, then you would come here and add your list of the prefixes that you want, and then they will appear in the contact record where you can pick from that drop-down list. It creates a drop-down list. Same with the suffixes. You can create a list of suffixes and then be able to select from it. A lot of people don't necessarily use this. We've become a lot more informal, let's say, over the last few years, but again, it depends on your industry. You may need that for the medical industry, or sometimes the legal area needs that. And then this is an important one, lead sources. Lead sources are, how did your customers come to you, or how did your leads come to you? And this is where you can edit the list. There are certain ones here when you first log into Claritysoft. I think there are 4 or 5: inbound call, outbound call, website, and trade show. But you can come in and change those and add any others that you want. So then in the record, when a new lead is entered, you can then add the new lead source, or add the lead source for that record. And it will follow that record all the way through the database. So this is a global field that will go throughout all of Claritysoft and all the modules. So that one's one people sometimes struggle to find, but it's under system settings and then lead sources. Okay, users. Next all important thing is to get your users in the system. And with your users, depending on how many licenses you purchase, you have a choice of either entering them manually to create the list, or you can import a list of users. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Another new thing that has been added in the last few months, you see this little set of dots here, and this one is green. That means that I am currently logged into this database and nobody else is. So as a system administrator, if you're curious as to how many people are actually using the database, you can simply log into your Claritysoft and go to users and access users and look at your list and see how many green dots you see. And then you can know who's logged into the database currently. So that's a new thing that we just added recently. And your active users are the ones that are currently active using the database. Over here, it says show 8 active users. Now you might have some inactive users, and then again, you might not, because if someone leaves, you can make them inactive, or if you transfer a license to another person. So the way the system works, if you have 8 licenses and you try to add a 9th person, when you go to save that person, it's going to say, sorry, you can't do that because you have run out of licenses. Okay, so that's there. And with a record, when you add a new user, you're going to add their first name, last name, their job title, their phone number, their email address. And this one is important. The title and the phone number, the database doesn't really use, but the email it does use. And then their username is the name that they will use to log in. Typically, it's a first initial last name, or it's a first name last initial, or just a first name. Again, whatever you decide to do, you want to keep it consistent, usually for all your users, so you don't get confused as to who has what. What I usually suggest a lot of times is whatever you use for the beginning of your email is what you could do as the login name, unless you decide on another preference. And then the password, what you can do when you're adding your users is just give them a generic password to get in. And then once they log in, they can come over to the settings here and go to change password, and then they can change their password to whatever they want. If you want to maintain control of what passwords they have, then you give them the password you want them to have, and then they will use that. The reports to here, this will have a list of all the users. And this field is not necessarily important to set up unless you're using what we call the manager profile for, say, a sales manager. If you have a sales manager and you assign the sales manager a manager profile, then you will want to have people that report to that manager. So what does that mean? What that means is the sales manager will be able to see his or her own records, plus those of the people that report to him or her. The people under the manager would be assigned an individual profile, which means those people can see only their own records, and then they cannot see upwards to the manager. They can only see their own. So you have different profiles. The most commonly used ones, I would say, are either all, which means the person can see all records in the database, no matter who the owner is, or individual. And individual means, like I said, only your own records. Then you can go beyond that if you have selected individual. Down here, and also notice time zone here does have a drop-down list. I've never assigned myself a time zone, but down here, you have the ability, if you are set as an individual, to see other people's records by clicking in checkboxes. You can say, well, Susan can see Bill's and Jacqueline's records by clicking in that, because it gives me visibility to other users, okay? The other thing that you can do is you can create groups. So for example, maybe your team is grouped by territories, and you have 2 or 3 people per territory, and you want the people in the same territory to be able to see each other's records, but not be able to see outside their territory. So you could create a group called Northeast Territory and then assign a person to be a member of a specific group and be able to see into that group. So these are worth exploring. Again, it depends on, how your company is organized and what you want people to see, but you have a lot of control over what records people can see in the database if you assign them anything other than an all profile, okay? And we'll look at profiles in a minute. So you're going to fill everything in. Now you want to make sure that this admin box is checked, because you're the admin user and you're the one who has the rights to come in and make these changes. If a person does not have these rights, then like I said, they only see this first section here, okay? So you want to make sure that you're set. Now you can set more than one person as an admin user in the system, but if you do, you want to make sure that 2 or 3 of you that are set that way communicate with one another if you're going to go in and make some changes, where you're going to add some custom fields, or you're going to do something in the database to change something. Let the other admin users know that you're going to do this, so you don't kind of step on each other's toes in there. All right. All right. And then you'll save this, and you've added your user. If you want to add a new one, you click add. I opened an existing one. Now, if you have a lot of users and you don't want to type them all in, you can import a list. So what you do is click on this to download a template, a file in Excel, and then you fill in the columns, and then you can import them. So once you have your file filled in, you come back to here and you click on choose file, go find the file, and then click the import button, and it will then upload your list of users with all the information that you filled in. Because chances are you probably have a spreadsheet somewhere that you can put together relatively quickly with a lot of users. If you only have 3 or 4 or 5, then it's probably just as easy to type them in manually. But if you have 25 or 30, then probably importing makes it faster, okay? And again, you can assign them a password on the way in. So, and if you've changed the password rules, then this password would have to match what your rules are. And you can assign them their profile and whether they're an admin user or not. Okay, so the information is there and can come in. All right. User email settings. This one that you as the admin user can see gives you the ability, again, if you have a lot of users, you have the ability to come here and choose a user and fill in that user's email settings. Again, you may or may not know their email password. I guess it depends on whether you're the IT person that set this up or not, but you don't have to fill in the password. So you can see these are all filled in. So it does save some time because this usually is confusing to people where they don't understand any of this. So if you can fill in this much for them and all they have to do is finish this and then test it, then that helps you. So you can do that. You'll also notice can import that just like you can with the users, where you can import their information, and that gets it done very quickly for you. So you have a way to download the template file, set it up, and then import it. Okay, so explore that if you need to. And once you put things in, then you save it. It'll say save successfully, and then you click a save and test, and it'll either say it failed in the connection or it was connected successfully. And these are your outgoing email settings, because this is connecting either to your Outlook for your outbound Outlook or your Gmail for outbound Gmail. So this is for sending emails out of Claritysoft. That's what those settings are for. All right, access profiles, quick. As I said, these control what the person sees in the database. And you have different ones. The team one, don't use, that's old. That is for offline only. So you don't even want to bother with that one. You're either going to use all or individual. And then for the individual one, if you want people in groups, you use the individual one. So they're starting as an individual, and then you can say, but this person can see this person, this person, this person. Okay. And then you can create custom ones. If you want to create a custom one, you simply click add and give it a name. What I usually like to do is say, this is an all profile for inside sales team or something like that, or outside sales. Okay. So if you put individual dash inside sales or all dash inside sales, then you know what the profile is. And salesperson here means that they're a salesperson in the database, and so reports would include their sales information. A lead manager means that in leads, this person or persons, if it's assigned to more than one, would be able to change the ownership of a lead and assign it to someone. So you may not want your sales team to be lead manager, only a manager to do that. So that's how you choose that. And then down here, first of all, your data access is all. And then this is where you can turn on visibility to the different modules in the database. A lot of the people I work with don't always use all the modules in Claritysoft. Some of them may not do quotes in Claritysoft because their quotes are complex or they're larger proposals, so they do them somewhere else. And they don't really want to see or need to see quotations module in Claritysoft, so you can turn it off, okay? Same thing with sales. They may not put sales in Claritysoft because they go over to their accounting system at that point. So you can turn things on and off as to what modules you want to see, okay? And so you have great control here of how you want people to see things in the database. Then you also have control for each module. A person can create a new record. Yep, probably want to do that. Edit their own record. Yep. Delete, maybe not. Okay. Edit a shared record. Well, if they can see all in their profile, they can see all records. So sharing would mean a record shared by another user. So you could turn that off, because then that means that only the owner of a record can make changes to the address and the phone number and other custom fields in that record. And so that person is responsible for keeping that record up to date. Another person who can see the record can see the data, they can add activities, they can add opportunities, they can add all of those things, but they can't change the data in the fields. So that's what that edit shared means. And the fields will be grayed out for a different person viewing the record and only be able to be edited by the owner of the record. So again, you want to go down through here, think through what you want, first of all, to be visible, and then second of all, what rights the person has as far as creating and editing records in the database. So the only ones I usually suggest that you allow deletion of would be activities and calendar, because they might need to delete an appointment or something like that. So if you leave that capability, that's fine, but for the rest of the records, probably not able to delete until you're sure they won't do something crazy. Although you do have your audit log, if you can see this, and you can go there and undo a deletion. You also can see who did it in the first place. Or if you don't have the audit log, you call our tech support team and they'll help you get it back. So no worries on that. But you just want to walk your way through and look at things. And then feature access. These are things, well, what else can they do? Mass email? Probably yes, because that simply means they can send more than one person at a time an email. So that's fine. Export to Excel? Maybe yes, maybe no. Merge accounts. That means you can merge duplicate accounts and contacts. Maybe yes, maybe no. Import data. Sometimes I suggest don't give people this right. Have one or two people that have that right, because they can bring in a lot of stuff and mess up your database, okay? Group edit, probably. That allows you to select more than one record at a time and update them all, which is helpful instead of going from record to record. Manage products, probably not. You would be a one who would manage the products and add new products and services. Advanced reports, again, you may or may not even have this in the first place. Can they do that? Marketing module, if you've purchased the marketing module for Claritysoft, you can create a custom access profile for the marketing person, and the marketing person can maybe be the only one to see the marketing module. The rest of the people can't see the module, but they would know when campaigns have been sent out, because there's a tab for that. So a lot of control here. You decide. Report permission, this is for the reports module. Here, a person can view all of the reports that are in the reports module. A person can create new ones, edit existing ones, and delete any ones. Again, decide what rights you want people to have and set them. Know that you can always come in and change it, because if you come in and change it, save it, then the only thing that has to be done is the person who has that access profile just needs to log out and log back in. The rights are updated and changed. So just go through, think through all of this, because it is important for your database. And as I said, you can have as many custom access profiles as you want. So once you create a custom access profile, then you would go back to your users and set that access profile for the users that you want it for, okay? So that's that. User groups, as I said, you can create user groups. So if you wanted to create it by territory, you can say, okay, I want Northeast territory or region, whatever. Again, you can think through how your team is organized and create a group based around that team. And then I can say, well, the people that are part of this group are these 3 people. And then I can save it. So then I could go back to my user record and I could set the group, assign the group to those 3 people, and then they would see each other's records. I'd set their access profile to individual and then their group to Northeast Territory. They would see each other's records when they log in and no one else's. So you can have as many groups as you need. And people can see into different groups. They can see into different individuals. So there's a whole lot of combinations you can do there. User types, this is for purposes of filtering and reporting. You can create user types. I did inside sales, outside sales here. So I can assign a user as an inside sales team member or an outside sales team member. And then when we're running reports or doing filters, you can filter by all the opportunities for the outside sales team, or all the opportunities for the inside sales team, or all the quotes or all the sales. So that's the purpose of that, which can help you then, kind of get down to the nitty-gritty of detail in your reports. All right, customization. This is the big part. And in many respects, the fun part. In your database, when you first go into Claritysoft, you will know that it's fairly generic. You open an account record, and as I said, you have the account name, you have the phone number, you have the website, you have the address information. So pretty generic. There's not anything, terribly exciting there. It's just basic information. So the fun part then is deciding, well, what fields do we need that have data that we need to track in Claritysoft? And you might be coming from spreadsheets where you have columns of data that you can then transfer into Claritysoft as far as custom fields. You might be coming from another CRM where you have custom fields. And so you get to decide, you and your team, what are the things we need to track? How do we need to search in the database? What kind of lists do we need to pull up? You can pull up by city, you can pull up by state, but do we need a territory or a region field in there so that we can pull up by the Northeast Territory, those that can see all the records? Do we need one, for the Western Territory, whatever? Do we need by the type of account that it is? Do we need by, all kinds of things? You just need to start thinking of the list and then decide on the fields. So notice over here on the left, you have all the modules, and this follows a pattern, okay? As you can see, you click on the left, on the right are your options. So here, if we're going to do the leads module, we click on the left and we see all the options that we can set for the leads module. We have custom fields, we have preferences. This is if you want to assign a lead number. Each of the modules has the ability to assign a number if you want. And then you can say what the starting number is, how many leading zeros, and if there's a prefix to it. So you can set that. The other things that are built into Claritysoft, into the leads module, are lead stages. And you can change these. These are similar to the sales stages in the opportunity module. So if you're using leads, you could have your early stages here, that when you're working with a lead, you're moving through your stages here. And then they kind of fold into your opportunity stages once you convert the lead. And then lead quality, you can change this, good, average, bad, hot, warm, cold, whatever you want. Or you can choose not to use these fields. So custom fields, I have a lot here. Notice a lot are disabled. This is kind of a messy database. But I do have down here a territory field. And when you're adding a new field, you can click the add button, type the name, and then the other important part is what data type do I want? Text means you can type text only, you know, just, well, text it numbers and characters. But that means that the user has to figure out what text to type in there. So that's good and bad because everybody might type something very different and inconsistent, and when you want to search, not very helpful. So I always recommend, if at all possible, do either a drop down or a drop down multi-select, because then you're giving your users the choice. Okay, you can pick from these 4 things. You're not letting them type what they think, okay? And the same thing with the multi-select. The difference here is a drop-down, you get to pick one. A drop-down multi-select, you can select all of them. So any combination, because they're check boxes, okay? You'll have number fields that allow you to put just a number in, percent, which would be a percentage field, currency, which just means it's dollars, date and time, okay? A checkbox was just fairly new. It used to be if we wanted sort of a yes/no kind of thing, we had to create a drop down with yes and no. And now you can do a checkbox instead. So you can click in the checkbox if it's an option that you want. So that one you might explore. If you have an older database, you might want to make some changes there possibly and add some checkboxes. And then some of these down here you may not have depending on what you can see in your database. A text wrap field is nice. Rather than just a text field, text is just a single line. A text wrap will actually give you a box that wraps multiple lines. And if you need to type something longer, that would be an appropriate field to use. A link field gives you the ability to create a link that you can click on to jump somewhere. Lookups allows you to look up either an account or a contact that's already in the database. So it's kind of a way to connect an account to another account, or an account to a contact in different ways. So it's a nice feature to use if you need to do that, because it allows you to look up an existing account to say this account is related to that one. An example would be if you're working with companies that have parent organizations or parent companies, and you want to assign the parent company to the account. If you use a lookup field, then you're going to make sure or ensure that the name of the parent company is spelled the way it's supposed to be spelled, because you're looking it up and selecting it. If you put a text field for it, again, people will type all kinds of different things, and for search purposes, it isn't going to work very well. So if you see that, you can do it. We have image fields now where you can insert an image into the field. So if you haven't seen that, you can try it. And then calculated fields lets you create actually a little mathematical calculation. And so again, some of these fields you may not see. It depends on the level of Claritysoft that you have, but go and explore them and see if you can think of some things. You know, again, if your database is already set up, it's possible some of these fields didn't exist when you set it up, and they might be there now, and so you might want to make some changes in your database and update it a bit. But you simply choose what you want. And if I put in, let me see here, let me type some ideas in here. So you're simply typing your list. however you want to spell it. And get your choices in. And again, the box here can explain or can contain up to 4,000 characters. Okay. So you can have a pretty long list of options here. You probably don't want it to be that long. So once you've got it here, you click Save. And you now have this field. So you would add your different custom fields. If you've had a brainstorming session and you've got your list, add your custom fields. After you've added your custom fields, the next thing you need to do with them is go to what we call the user interface or UI templates and tell Claritysoft where you want those custom fields to be on the screen when you open the record. So that's your very next step. And because if you would log out and log back in right now and go to the leads record and open it, you would not see industry type there. It would not show up because you haven't put it in your user interface template. And probably all of you have done this and said, well, what the heck, what happened here? So add your fields. You can add 10 or 12 of them all at one time, no worries. Go over here on the left under customization, click on UI templates. Then on the right-hand side, you're going to see all your different UI templates that you have. Well, I was in leads, so I'm going to go to the leads one. The next thing that you need to pick is what profile. Now, this is where it can get interesting as well. Notice we have a base template and then we have all the different access profiles, which would include any custom ones that you've created. So what we've done to make life easy for you is created this base or master template. So I would go there. It is going to show me my current screen layout with all my fields. And you can see there's that territory field. This contact role I'm going to pull out of here because I took that, put an X behind it to kind of remove it. But all my other fields are here. And then here's my industry type that I just created. So I can come over here and I can decide, well, where do I want to put this field? Notice as I drag it, a blue box appears. And I can push it anywhere that I want. I can also move all of these fields around. If I want to put all my address fields over here and move these over here, whatever you want to do, you design it. Notice that you have 3 tabs here. There's a primary one, a secondary one, and an additional one. If you drag, for example, let me just do this. If I decide I want my address information on this secondary tab, pull this down here. And then I also can rename this. Address info, okay? So I have the ability then to move these anywhere that I want, and it will depend on how many custom fields you add, and if you want to categorize them through these different tabs, you can do that. If you don't have a lot of custom fields, my recommendation is to keep them all on one screen. It just makes it easier in the long run, but if you do have a lot, you might want to put them on the different tabs, and you'll see how this works in a minute. So I've got my everything set up, and field configurations here. This will show you which fields are currently visible, okay, which for the most part you want them all visible if they're in your screen. This one you can make fields read only. That would mean if you're importing data. Maybe you're importing some sort of financial data just to update your database periodically with sales totals or something for a record. Then you could make that field read-only, meaning that the users cannot type in it. They can read the data, they can't type in it. And so the only way you would be able to update it is either have a user who has access to it, or import the data to update it. And then required means if you click here, then when you create a new lead record, you absolutely positively must put a company name in to start with and before you can save it. So be careful with required fields. People get excited about these, and then sometimes they make it really hard for their team to put data in because they might not know something right away, and then they get frustrated because they can't save something and move forward until they put this one piece of information in. But so think about this one before you do it. And then report permission, this is for the leads. This kind of goes back to what we were looking at in the access profile, but you have control here as well. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this. And it's going to save it to the base template. But I want to copy it to my other access profiles that I'm using. So you're going to come here to copy to, and then you get to choose, well, where do I want to copy it? A lot of times what I do, just to make it fast and easy, I just say go to all of them. Even if I'm not using these, it doesn't matter. I've copied the same layout to them all in one click, and then I simply click save. So that if I now go to another profile here, it's exactly the same. You can't see a change in the layout. However, if I did want to change something, I could say go to the individual layout and say, well, maybe they don't need to see certain fields, and I can drag the fields away over to the left and then save the individual profile. So for each profile type that you have, access profile, you can have different screen layouts. More ways to make it very individual in Claritysoft. Okay, so now that I've done that, and again, I would keep working in settings, go from module to module, add my fields, do all of the setup, do the user interface template, get it all set up, and I can do it all at once, or I can go, in and out. But once I've done those changes to any of my settings here, I need to log out, because the database needs to reset itself. Oops. I always do that. I type a 0 instead of an O. So now once I log back in, when I go to the leads module and open a record, and this is a trick I'm going to tell all of you if you haven't learned this yet. Wherever you are in Claritysoft, always click on this file folder icon to open a record, because it will always open the record for the module you're in. And you'll never make a mistake and click on the account name and end up in the account record instead of the opportunity record or the activity record. Just teach your team that and yourself that, and you'll always open the right record. So now I have right here my industry type field that I added. Okay, so you simply add your fields, choose the type. If it's a drop down, put in your options. If somebody comes in and says, oh gosh, we don't have an industry type for something, you know, you're missing something, maybe food and beverage, you can say, okay, no worries. Give me 2 minutes. You go back to settings. You go to customization. You go to leads, custom fields. You find your industry type fields. You open it. You click in here. And wherever you want to put food and beverage, it can be in the middle of the list. It can be at the bottom of the list, wherever you want. Food and beverage. Save. And then log out. Log back in. Notice you don't have to do the UI template anymore because it's already there. You're just changing an option. And it will now be there. So this is the beautiful thing about Claritysoft that I really love. And I guess, you know, I've been working at Claritysoft now for 8 years. But when I came in originally as a customer, so the flexibility that you have in being able to go in and add custom fields that are your custom fields, not what we've decided you should have. And then when you create those custom fields, to be able to, even after you have lots of data in the database, you can go in and add an option. If you need an option, you can make a change. You can add a new field any time that you want to do that. So if I go back to leads, and I open my record again, I will now see food and beverage as one of the options. So there it is. 2 minutes, maybe less. If I didn't talk so much, it would be less. Okay. So that's doing that. So it's really just sit down, think module per module, what modules do we want to use? And then for each of the modules, what fields do we want? Now, one of the other things I definitely want to throw out there for you is when I created this industry type field in my leads module, or this territory field in leads, if I create the same field in accounts, contacts, and or opportunities, when I convert a lead, the data that's filled in that lead record will auto-populate the corresponding field in those other modules, wherever it's found. And then from opportunities to quotes and sales, you can have the fields go in there too, because when you convert an opportunity to a quote and a quote to a sale, or an opportunity to a sale, however you do it, that data will flow. So if you use the leads module, you can get data to flow from the lead record all the way through to the sale record. So that's a design thing I want to make sure that as admin users you understand, because again, that can give you a lot of flexibility in your database. And sometimes that's a deciding factor as to whether you use the leads module or not. So it's really, you know, quite nice to do that. So let me see here. Well, have I covered everything? UI templates. The only other thing I quickly want to touch, I got 2 minutes, is products and pricing. If you want to put your price list into Claritysoft, you can. And under products and pricing, price book, you can create a price book. Now it can be imported, okay? When you get here, this is going to be completely blank. So what you'll go over and do is you're going to click on list actions and you would say add a group. So a group here is a folder. So I have 3 groups: coffee, products, and widgets, right? And in my coffee group, I have these products. So I can add a new group And you may call it whatever you want. Again, it's to categorize your products. I'll just call it new group. Very clever name. And then you'll see it appear over here. And they do appear in alphabetical order. So once I've added a new group, I can come back to list actions and I could add a subgroup, which basically creates a subcategory inside of this one. And you'll see a little triangle here. And when you click it, now I have a subgroup. So I could have multiple subgroups under here. So I can have a large category of some type of product and then have different subgroups underneath. And then all you need to do is, if you want to put a product in, you click on the group, come over here, list actions, add an item. And then your items need to have an item number. The item number does need to be unique, okay? And then you can put an item name in, whatever it is. A unit of measure could be each, per box, per dozen, something like that. Price, what is the price for this item? Okay. And then if you need a weight for shipping, you can put it in. If you don't need to put it in. Cost would be your cost if you want to put that in. Okay. So maybe your cost is 20 bucks. If you want to add a commission rate on a per product basis, you can do that. And then you can indicate whether something's not taxable. So if you don't click this, then it could have tax added to it. If you do click this, then even if you put tax in when you're in the quote or sale record, it would not calculate for this particular product. And then you can have a description down here. So you can type your description and then save it. So you have your product, and then you could have a list of however many products you need to put in here. Again, like I said, they can be imported. If you don't have a whole lot of products, you can enter them in here using the products and pricing. So that's how to do that if you want to do that. And then you can pick those in your opportunity record from the products and services tab, or quotes or sales is there. All right, I've used up my time again. Go back here and say thank you for coming and attending. Hopefully you've learned some little tips and tricks about the admin setup and gotten some ideas on either how if you're in the process of setting up your database, or some ideas on how you might improve your database. If you need help, call tech support at 888-838-7487, extension 2, and they'll be happy to help you. Or email them at support@claritysoft.com. Future topics, critiques, ideas, whatever, email us at info@claritysoft.com, and we'll be happy to. We're always trying to add new topics, as I say, and reconfigure some of the things that we're doing to make them more useful to you. So send us your thoughts and your ideas. And with that, go have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.